3 sinister true stories exposed, spine-chilling hauntings and the unexplained horror within. On the sun-drenched streets of Maplewood, smiles hid stories darker than any lingering shadow. Sarah, a 34-year-old single mother, thought her days of turmoil were behind her after a brutal divorce. But beneath the whisper of picket fences and the cheerful greetings of well-manicured lawns, something sinister struck fear deep within her heart. It started small, almost innocuous, a flicker of lights that danced like fireflies in the corners of her home. Sarah chuckled nervously, easing her 2 children, Max and Lily, into believing it was merely a friendly little poltergeist. But those naive laughs curdled as the real horrors crept closer. Each night, as shadows lengthened, Sarah's shifts at the diner grew later. They would return home to an unsettling silence, a contrast perfectly stark against the benign exterior of their seemingly perfect life. Lily and Max reported strange sounds in the dark, echoes of lullabies that called them to the door. Whispers tangled in the night air taunted them, shadows flitted just outside their view. Nights became a battlefield. Her children woke suddenly, eyes wide, mesmerized by something lurking out of sight. Sarah's heart raced, cold sweat trickling down her spine as she pulled them close, trying to shake off the dread seeping through the crevices of her consciousness. Then came the night of the shattered glass. As she wiped down the counter, she felt a violent shudder. Her home rocked with an invisible force. A glass from the shelf flew forward, exploding like a grenade of fear, shards raining down like teeth gnashing in the silent kitchen. Panic gripped her tightly, blinding her rational thoughts. What was happening? She thought, clinging to the hope that it was all in her head. Little did she know, something far more sinister was gathering close. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Neighbors waved, but their smiles shimmered with uncertainty, glances darted away whenever she caught them staring. Sarah felt a weight of suspicion wrapped around her heart, squeezing tighter with every encounter. Was it real or just her mind? Her search for support only deepened dread, as whispers from local police sent ripples of panic through her veins. Disappearances haunted Maplewood's history, blood-stained secrets masked by gentle surfaces. With every new dawn, the dread lingered, a specter cloaked in the everyday. As the moon hung high, enveloping the town in its pale glow, Sarah cowered behind her drawn curtains. A shape moved in the yard, too slow to identify yet painfully human. Cold terror gripped her throat as she rushed to wake Max and Lily. Their eyes flickered, entranced by something outside, pointing, whispering a name that made her insides twist, a name calling them into the unknown. "Mommy, she's calling us." Panic surged, her protective instincts roaring to life. As she edged toward the door, Sarah wondered, could her once friendly neighbors harbor darker secrets? The door loomed before her, threatening to pull her into the dark abyss lurking beyond. Who was lying in wait in the suffocating shadows? The answer danced just out of reach, an imminent nightmare poised to engulf them all. The air was thick and suffocating, refusing to let Sarah breathe. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, a relentless drum signaling the danger that loomed just outside. "Don't go," she whispered, as if her voice could carve a barrier against the enchantment binding her children. Lily clutched Max's arm, eyes wide with something that was both wonder and fear. "Mommy, it's her," Lily insisted, her small voice breaking through the silence. "The lady in the yard. She wants us." "No. You have to stay inside. I'll get the phone." Sarah's command tore out of her, raw and desperate. She yearned to call someone, anyone, yet her feet felt rooted in place, besieged by shadows pressing at the edges of her mind. Just then, a low moan swept through the darkness, wrapping around her like mist. It carried with it the scent of decay, worming its way into the very fibers of her being. The door rattled violently, she flinched as if gripped by icy hands. It pushed against her instinct to flee. "Open the door!" A voice shrieked, sounding both familiar and foreign, resonating with an unsettling fondness. "Let us in, Sarah. We need to come inside." She staggered back, tears prickling her eyes. The name on the lips of whatever haunted her was too sacred, too dear. How did it know her? Did it come from her past? "No, no. You're not my friends," she shouted, but her defiance shattered against their calls. Max crawled to the door, his tiny hands itching towards the knob as if drawn by a magnet. "Mommy. She's talking to us." The door lurched again, this time harder, as if someone was determined to break through. Horror washed over her. She lunged forward, grabbing Max, wrenching him back with all her strength. "You can't!" she screamed, terror spilling from every corner of her heart. "You can't go." But in the recesses of her mind, doubt took root. Could the whispers be a promise of solace she had never known? "Just listen to her, Mom," Lily chimed as she swayed under the inexplicable pull, fear mixed with an eerie calmness, the kind that envelopes you in the arms of an unseen force. The very walls of her home began to shudder, muffled voices bleeding through the gaps. "Join us." We remember those words became a chant, filling her room with memories long suppressed, filtered through the air like nightmares revisiting her after years. "No. I won't give in." Desperation clawed at Sarah, flinging her back as she fought for control. She felt their presence, an army of shadows waiting with bated breath. The whispers grew louder, drowning out her breath, binding her to the will of the past. Suddenly, the shape outside morphed, and a figure emerged, a woman cloaked in shadows, hair billowing like smoke caught in a windstorm, eyes two deep pits of darkness. Sarah stumbled back, heart pounding in her ears like thunder. "What do you want?" The woman smiled, revealing teeth that glinted in the moonlight, a crescent grin that carved hope from despair. "You know us, Sarah. We're the ones left behind." In that moment, Sarah realized they weren't mere echoes of the lost, they were a promise of a reckoning. The night's chill stole her breath, fear gripping her throat as she faced the doorway, knowing it could alter everything. "Mommy," whispered Max, innocence mingling with dread. She was left teetering on a precipice. Would she protect her children at all costs, or would she relent to the siren call of a forgotten past? As the candle flame in their home flickered violently, shadows dancing in a macabre ballet, Sarah's heart screamed for clarity. And then, with a final ear-piercing scream, the figures surged forward, and the door burst open, releasing a wave of cold darkness into the home. Sarah knew this was just the beginning. What awaited her inside the churning mass of shadows was unknown. Her hands trembled as she braced herself for the inevitable confrontation. Who or what had come for them this night? The darkness surged in, and in a split second, amidst the chaos, a voice echoed, a voice familiar, one that sent shivers down her spine. "Come play with us forever, Sarah. Tomorrow, the game of survival would begin." But for now, the shadows claimed their victory. The shadows poured into the house like a living thing, swirling around her ankles and creeping up her legs. Sarah's breath hitched as cold tendrils brushed against her skin, wrapping her in an icy grip. She could hear them now, the murmurs rising, a strange hissing echo that filled her ears with dread. A cacophony of whispers, sweetly sinister, luring her deeper into the ominous embrace. "Mommy, help!" Max's terrified wail cut through the enchanting noise. His tiny body clung to her leg, trembling. "I'm scared." "Stay close, Max. Don't let go." She cast a frantic glance toward Lily, who had sunk into a trance, captivated by the shadow-enhanced figure outside. The woman's silhouette beckoned with elongated fingers, each movement a seduction that promised escape from fear, but at what cost? "Join us, Sarah." The voice outside sang, weaving through the shadows. You know the truth. We're so lonely. No. Please. Rage ignited within her, fueled by a mother's instinct. She lunged forward, her grip tightening on Max as she stepped into the darkness. This was her moment. With every ounce of determination surging through her, she shouted, "I want to let you take my children." The shadows recoiled briefly, recoiling as if hit, momentarily silhouetting the woman's face. Her smile flattened, morphing into something that looked more like a snarl. "You cannot fight fate," she hissed, sparks of rage igniting in her glowing eyes. "We are stronger than you can imagine." Suddenly, the house groaned, settling under the weight of unseen forces. The very walls began to twitch and pulse as if responding to their threats. Childlike laughter, eerily sweet and mocking, echoed from the corners, wrapping around Sarah's heart like a noose. She felt the pull of memories tugging at her mind, fissures cracking open as golden fragments of laughter taunted her heart. "No!" she shouted again. "You cannot have them. They are not yours." In a moment that could only be described as both surreal and horrific, the shadows coalesced, spiraling into shapes of children long forgotten. Their faces twisted into tormented smiles, eyes hollow yet wide with the promise of memories. They were the lost her niece, her friends from childhood, lost souls yearning for resurrection. The figure outside solidified, stepping closer, releasing an oppressive wave of sorrow. "Would you trade your heart for them?" the woman crooned. "Would you sacrifice everything to join us?" Sarah felt the walls around her pulse to life, they breathed, thick with despair. Whispering swirled in her ears until she couldn't tell what was real and what was the shadow's trickery. She could see it all, the sacrifice beckoning her with siren hands, offering to reunite her with what once was. "Mommy?" Max's voice broke through the overwhelming tide, a raw thread of innocence amidst the chaos. "Don't listen. I don't want to go." That single plea steadied her. "I want to let you go, I promise." The words tumbled forth with renewed fervor. "Stay with me. We will fight." But the shadows laughed, a chilling sound that reverberated off the walls, mocking her resolve. "You can't hold on forever, Sarah." Suddenly, a blistering wind howled through the house, extinguishing the last flicker of the candlelight. Darkness enveloped them completely, a weight pressing down on her chest, suffocating. "Mommy! I can't see!" Max cried, his trembling voice weaving through the night, breaking the spell. Sarah's heart pounded as she scrambled forward, trying to feel her way in the impossible dark. Her hand brushed against Lily's, small and cold. She felt a surge of desperation ignite her instincts. No! She refused to surrender. Through the oppressive black, a light flickered, a soft glow extending from the depths of her heart. Igniting in a rush, it pushed back against the shadows. "I am not afraid," she yelled, unleashing a defiance that rippled through the room. And then, from the depths of the void, came the roar of fury, a chaos unleashed. The shadows swarmed, clashing against the light as Sarah fought to cling to her children, determination surging through her veins. Like wildfire. "Stand with me, Max. Lily. Fight," she commanded. In that moment, Sarah was aware the battle for their souls had only just begun. As the darkness writhed and convulsed around them, mingling with light, she sensed the impending climax. Their fate hung in the balance. Was this the end or merely the beginning of a far greater horror? The haunting call echoed in the depths of her mind, inviting and relentless. Join us, forever. Tomorrow, she would uncover the truth buried in shadows. But tonight, they danced on the edge of annihilation. Would the light be enough to break the curse, or would they be forever lost in the dark? The shadows weren't a typical darkness, they had weight, a dense and smothering presence that clawed at Sarah's heart. As she gathered Max and Lily closer, the air thickened, drawing her into an unbearable tension. "Mommy!" Max squeaked, fear spilling over in tiny gasps. They huddled, a cluster of warmth against the encroaching cold. "What is happening?" "I don't know," but her voice faltered as she sensed something in the darkness, a pulsating energy that whispered promises too enticing to ignore. The shadows moved as if alive, dragging at the edges of her sanity. Mommy Lily's voice was faint, almost a secret. "I see something." Sarah strained against the oppressive dark, and there it was, a flicker of motion across the wall, a face emerging from the depths. Eyes sunken deep, hollow like caves. Lips curled into a grotesque smile. It was one of the lost children, or something, wearing their face. "Come play with us, Sarah," it chanted, voice a cruel mockery of innocence. "No!" she shouted, fury igniting within her. "You're not them. You're not real." But awe filled her heart, a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, she could turn this nightmare into a rescue. More figures manifested, each one clawing at the edges of memory, faces she knew too well. They danced in mocking ecstasy, their laughter slicing through her like knives. "Join us," they cried in unison, a haunting chant that reverberated against the walls. "You don't belong here." She pressed her hands over her ears, blocking the resonance of terror. "Get away from us." Panic surged. The world felt like it was collapsing, and each heartbeat echoed louder than the last. Holding her children tighter, she opened her heart to the warmth inside, amplifying the flicker of light still radiating from within. "Stay with me," she shouted, fierce and determined, her voice ringing clear against chaos. "We aren't done fighting." The air crackled. The shadows recoiled, momentarily blindsided by her conviction. But the moment was fleeting. They surged back, a monstrous wave that threatened to overwhelm her. Suddenly, the walls trembled, and the floor beneath them heaved. "You'll never escape." The sinister voice from the shadows twisted around them, dragging them deeper into a vortex of despair. "This is where you belong." Sarah felt sick. The gravitational pull of despair was relentless, a whirlpool tugging at their souls. She glanced at Max and Lily, their faces pale and filled with sheer terror, her heart splintered. The power they wielded was almost palpable, flushing her body with fear. "Mommy!" Max clung to her tightly, trembling. "Keep your eyes on the light," she whispered, even as doubt clawed at her mind. But beneath that doubt, a fierce love burned. She wouldn't surrender. "We're getting out of here." Sarah called upon every ounce of maternal strength. Drawing in deep breaths, she let that light explode in her chest, illuminating the darkness in blinding brightness. "We will fight." The shadows screamed, a guttural, piercing wail that filled her chest with cold dread, their forms shattering like glass beneath the intensity of her will. The darkness pulsed violently against her gleaming defiance, revealing horrific visions of the past and future intertwined. She could see herself, older, weathered, lost through dimensions that flickered like dying embers. "Sarah! Help us!" The lost children cried, their faces contorting with desperation, but she stood her ground. "No! You're not real. You're not my children." At last, clarity struck. The shadows fed on her anguish, twisting her memories until they became grotesque versions of sorrow. But the sensation of the light growing stronger felt like a mantle being woven around her heart. Could the love she felt pave a way through this hell? Could it save her children? With a surge of righteous fury, she pulled Max and Lily closer and charged forward into the fray of writhing shadows, determined to break their hold. The wall of darkness hissed, mocking. "You'll regret this forever." "Not if I have to bear this burden alone," she retorted, launching them into the unknown. But as they moved, she felt the very fabric of the house shift around them. The shadows twisted, pulling, pressing, melding with the light. Was the house protecting them or swallowing them whole? Just then, fleeting images of a darkened path unveiled themselves, a doorway shimmering, pulsing like a heart. "Mommy, look!" Max pointed, and for the first time, a fracture formed in the dark tapestry of despair. But just as they rushed toward it, the shadows surged again, shrieking with rage, desperate to reclaim their lost souls. "Join us," they intoned, voices coiling like smoke, promising secrets, warmth, and solace. The door flickered, shimmering against the deafening cries. Would they leap through or be consumed by what came next? "Go!" Sarah urged, pushing her children toward the light, heart racing. What awaited them on the other side? Would it be freedom or an even deeper descent into horror? The shadows whispered, secrets spilling through the cracks, weaving a web of darkness around them. This was a test. The race against madness and despair had just begun, and the stakes would only rise. The moment they leapt through the doorway, a harsh brightness enveloped them, and Sarah felt a violent wrenching, like being torn from one world to another. She stumbled forward, caught off guard by the sudden shift, and fell to her knees, catching Max and Lily as they tumbled onto the cold, hard floor beside her. The room they landed in was silent, bathed in a pale, flickering light. It stung her eyes. As they adjusted, shadows crept along the walls, curling around corners like fingers eager to grip what they could. But these shadows were different, more subdued, as if whispering their secrets instead of howling for despair. "Where are we, Mommy?" Max's small voice broke through the stillness. His trembling hands clung to Sarah's arm, grounding her. "I don't know," she replied, fear swirling anew in her gut. "But we're together, and that's what matters." A creeping dread slithered around her, the memories of the previous trial lingering like scars in her mind. Where the shadows had been fierce and raging outside, this place felt like the eye of the storm, dangerous in its stillness. "What is this place?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked towards an old mirror hanging crookedly on the wall, goblet-shaped with tarnished edges. The reflected surface warped her image, stretching her small frame in unsettling ways. "I wish I knew." Sarah's eyes darted around, searching for something to hold on to, some thread of reassurance. The air felt thick and heavy, almost as if it had shape and substance. Each breath she took seemed to echo painfully, amplifying the tension in the space. Suddenly, the mirror flickered with a pulse. Shadows danced within it, forming shapes that twisted and undulated, pulling her gaze in like a moth to flame. The surface rippled, revealing fragmented glimpses of her life, her childhood, her family, the day they lost their home, each scene fused with faces she recognized but could not place. "Mommy, look." Max pointed again, his finger quivering as he beheld the reflections. Images swirled violently, morphing between moments of laughter and tears, joy and despair. "See? That's us," he cried out, excitement breaking through fear. But Sarah's heart sank. The images weren't just memories, they were garments of emotion woven together, and they were unraveling. "We need to stay away from it," she warned, dread replacing the flicker of hope. As they regrouped, a low, guttural laughter broke the silence, seeping through the cracks of the room like poison. "You think you can escape?" The voice was everywhere, echoing from the corners of the room, laying a heavy fog of unease. "Oh no," Lily whimpered, and Sarah felt the chill seep into her bones. "Listen to them, they're lost like you." The voice taunted, rising higher, wrapping around her like a serpent. "This is your fate, you cannot change it. You belong here, in the realm of regrets. Get away from us." Sarah shouted, feeling rage surge within her. "We're not yours to claim." She squared her shoulders, demanding the room yield to her will. A shadow figure slipped out from the mirror, hovering just above the ground. It brought with it a whiff of decay, making Sarah gag slightly. It was one of the lost children, eyes shining with a strange light, but not quite right, hollow and eerie. "You can save us," it crooned, beckoning with a bony hand. "Come with us, Sarah. We will show you the truth." "No!" she cried, clutching her children tightly, overwhelming fear sparking defiance. "We don't want your truth. Why don't you see?" The whispers filled the air, pulling at her thoughts, unraveling them one by one. You are already trapped, just admit it. What do we do? Max asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Think of the light. Sarah called back to them, her heart pounding in her chest. We find the light but before she could finish, a blinding flash erupted from the mirror, radiating darkness that pressed against them, pulling, tugging. In an instant, everything shifted and warped, as if the fabric of reality was tearing apart. Keep moving. She yelled, instinct overriding thought as she started running towards an unseen exit. But was there an escape? Or was there only more horror to face? A booming laugh echoed behind them, blending with a cacophony of whispers. You'll never find the way out. You'll always be lost. Just as they reached a small door nestled within the framework of shadows, it flew open, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Sarah hesitated. What new terror awaited them there? Behind her, she could hear the chilling voices urging her to turn back, and her heart raced. Would they take the plunge into the darkness ahead or be dragged back into the madness? What lay beyond that door was their only choice, but the price of hope surged, heavy and demanding. Go! Sarah shouted, spurred by urgency. Courage washed over her, fueled by the love she held. They stepped through, ready to confront whatever awaited them. What had the shadows built for them in this next stage? Would it lead to salvation or eternal darkness? The moment they crossed the threshold, the air shifted. A chill cut through Sarah like a knife, setting her teeth on edge. The corridor stretched out before them, narrow and suffocating, walls smeared with what looked like blackened handprints, ghosts of those who came before. The flickering light from behind them fizzled out, leaving only darkness to envelop them. Stay close. Sarah urged, her voice trembling, partly from the cold, partly from the creeping specter of dread pulling at her mind. She felt Max's small hand slip into hers, and Lily clutched her other arm like a lifeline. Their trust was her only armor against the unknown. Footsteps echoed down the corridor, slow, deliberate. They were not alone. Sarah's breath quickened. It felt like they were being hunted, prey caught in the web of this twisted reality. Shadows flickered along the walls, bending as if they were alive. She could almost hear whispers threading through the darkness, speaking secrets meant only for the damned. Mommy Max's voice was choked with fear. Shh, Sarah whispered, pressing her lips together. She needed to show strength, but inside, turbulence raged. She was as afraid as he was, maybe even more. This darkness was a body, a living thing, swirling around them, hungry and waiting. As they moved deeper, the air turned dense, pressing against their lungs. It was no longer just the shadows, it felt like hopelessness itself was stacking the odds against them. She squeezed her children's hands tighter, her heart pounding a desperate mantra. They needed hope. They needed to find a way out. A heavy thud echoed from farther down the hall. Sarah glanced back, instincts igniting. The door they had just stepped through flickered like a dying candle before fading entirely. Panic clawed at her throat. We have to keep moving, she urged, pushing them forward. They turned a corner, and suddenly light. Up ahead, a dull glow crept through the cracks of another door, illuminating swirling dust like stars in a dying galaxy. Hope flared momentarily, a siren call in this endless void. There. Sarah pointed, urgency coursing through her veins. Rushing toward the glow, they reached for the handle but it wouldn't budge. It was locked tight, as if sealing them in. An anguished gasp tore from Sarah's throat. Help! Please! She cried, pounding against the door. The shadows behind them began to thrum and pulse, rising with a deafening roar, swallowing the glow. The whispers crescendoed into shrieks, taunting her with phrases she couldn't decipher, their language morphed into madness. Mommy! I'm scared! Cried Max, his voice sharp with terror. Keep your eyes on me, she said, desperation thickening her tone. We'll find a way. But where? As the shadows cascaded closer, a swarm tugging at their heels, fear threatened to swallow her whole. Lily sobbed, a sound so raw it sent daggers through Sarah's heart. "We need to get out. Don't let go." Sarah screamed, holding them tight. With a final surge of adrenaline, she slammed her shoulder against the door, bracing herself for the unexpected. Nothing. The corridor twisted, tormenting her with the sound of laughter that echoed as if the darkness itself were mocking their plight. "Go back. You're not meant for the light." It shrieked, each word dripping with disdain. "No. Not today." Sarah shouted, tears blurring her vision. She turned her back on the door, grasped her children closer, and faced the shadows. "Don't look away," she commanded, fear morphing into fierce protectiveness. "We fight." There, in the oppressive stillness, a flicker ignited in her chest. Not of fire, but the whispered truths of resilience. Maybe they didn't need the door. Maybe what they required lay beyond their fear. As she pushed forward, the laughter intensified, splintering into shards of frantic chaos. "You really believe you can escape? You don't know what's coming." The voice fell into a haunting cadence, and just as she was about to take another step into the unknown, an overwhelming darkness descended. Inside it, a presence loomed, heavy and ancient. The air crackled with sinister intent. "Are you ready to face your regrets?" It hissed, the shadows swirling wildly. With no other choice, Sarah took a deep breath. "Bring it on," she shouted defiantly, her heart thunderous. What awaited keenly just beyond this perilous brink? Would they stare down their deepest fears, or be consumed by the shadows threatening to swallow them whole? They pressed forward. The weight of the shadows hung heavy, and each step felt like wading through molasses. Sarah's thoughts were an unrelenting storm. Was this fear or something deeper? Could the darkness see their deepest regrets? Would it use them against her? The darkness pulsed as if breathing, alive with malevolent energy, wrapping tighter around them. Then, from the void, a laugh, a sickly sweet sound that sent chills spiraling down her spine. Max flinched. "Mommy, it's playing with us," he stuttered, his voice shaking. "I know," she replied, trying to maintain a calm exterior. "We won, let it win." Lily, seemingly lost in her own thoughts, whispered, "What if the darkness is inside us?" The word struck hard. What if it was? What if the terror they felt emanated not from the shadows, but from within? "No!" Sarah snapped, her voice raw as she locked eyes with her daughter. "It's just a trick. We're stronger than this." Suddenly, a flash of memory pierced her mind like a shard of glass, the argument with her husband, the unsaid words, the weight of guilt. The shadows seemed to swirl eagerly, feasting upon her despair. The air grew thicker, each breath a struggle. "I can't breathe," Max gasped, panic breaking through the facade as the pressure mounted. Sarah knelt down, holding them both close. "Listen to my voice," she commanded, her heart racing. "We're going to find a way out. Together. I promise." But the shadows hissed, a venomous whisper. "Together? You don't understand. The truth is that you're already lost behind her." The staircase moaned and creaked, splintering the fragile resolve she had built. A sudden rush of cold sliced through the corridor, like fingers of ice trailing down her neck. It was a warning. Just as she was about to rally her strength, a distant wail reverberated through the air, echoing from somewhere within the darkness. It was plaintive, filled with anguish. Sarah's stomach knotted. "Do you hear that?" she asked, terror creeping in. "Yes." "What is it?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with dread. It's someone who needs help," Sarah whispered. "Should we help them?" Max asked, innocence shining through the fear. "No." Sarah snapped. "We need to focus on getting out." But even as she said it, doubt gnawed at her. What if in refusing to help, they were sealing their own fate? The shadows melted away for just a moment, offering her a fleeting glimpse of a figure at the end of the hall. A woman, pale and ethereal, with eyes that seemed to draw in all light. She stood, mouth moving as if trying to scream or to warn. "Mom!" Lily cried, pulling back. Sarah's grip faltered at the image. "Let us go," Sarah urged, pulling them along. With each step, the weight of the shadows pressed down harder, rushing toward them like an avalanche. The figure's face twisted in anguish as if pleading. But fear surged, and Sarah pushed past, dragging her children along. They reached a corner that led to another door, this one marred and twisted but not locked. Hope flickered again. Could this be the exit? She reached for the handle, her heart hammering like a drum, the shadows hovering menacingly at her back. "Open it," Lily urged, breathless. But just as Sarah gripped the handle, a voice echoed within her mind, dark and smooth. "What's in there may be worse than what lies behind you. Are you ready to learn of the sacrifices made?" "Shut up," she shouted, turning back to face the engulfing darkness, determined to prove it wrong. "We choose our path." With a fierce pull, she twisted the handle. It clicked, drawing a breath from the shadows. What lay beyond this door? Was it freedom or a trap even more insidious than before? The door creaked open slightly, and a blinding light burst forth, but it glimmered with something dark. Sarah froze, caught between impossibilities. "Go through," the voice hissed, creeping into her thoughts. "Let the light consume you." But was it truly a choice she could make? Or was it already made for her? The door hesitated on its hinges, a breath away from fully opening. A sliver of light poured in, illuminating swirling dust motes that danced like lost souls. It beckoned to Sarah and her children, daring them to step into the unknown. "What do you think is in there?" Max asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something good," Sarah lied, clinging to the flicker of hope like a lifeline. But her gut twisted. The shadows behind them surged forward, closer than ever, ready to consume them whole. With a fierce shove, she flung the door wide. The light erupted and momentarily blinded her, washing away the thick darkness. It pulsed with warmth, crackling like fire, but tinged with a hint of rot. Did it promise salvation or despair? "Mom, I can't see," Lily cried, fumbling at Sarah's side. The world was blurred, every sound distorted, as if they stood at the edge of a vast abyss. "Stay close," Sarah shouted, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She took a hesitant step forward, urging her children to follow. They stumbled after her into the blinding radiance, but it felt wrong, a nightmarish glow. The moment they stepped inside, the light flickered, revealing walls that seemed to shift and breathe. Disorienting colors warped and turned, engulfing them in a kaleidoscope of impossible images. Faces merged from memories, friends, family, even strangers twisting into expressions of agony. They cried out in silent despair, drawing close as if the darkness wasn't far behind. "What is happening?" Max whimpered, grabbing Sarah's arm tightly, his small fingers trembling. "Hold on to me, Max. We'll get through this." Her voice echoed in the strange chamber, fighting against the cacophony of haunting whispers that filled the air. Lily seemed transfixed, staring wide-eyed at the spectral figures. "Mom, they're in pain. What do they want?" "I don't know," Sarah shouted in frustration, pressing forward, desperate to escape their grasping, haunted stares. Suddenly, a sharp laugh echoed alongside the cries, resonating in strange harmonies. "You didn't really think you could escape, did you?" The voice slithered around them like a serpent. "Leave us alone," Sarah shouted back, each word feeling hopeless against the claims of the void. Dark tendrils scampered closer, clawing at them, each a reminder of her failures, doubts, and fears. The struggles of their past pulled on her mind, as if dragging her down into the depths of despair. "Mom, please. I want to go home," Max cried, his voice raw with desperation. With an anguished shout, Sarah spun around, her heart racing. "This isn't real. You're not real," she screamed into the chaos, willing herself to stand firm. The walls tightened around them, squeezing, but she stood taller, willing the shadows to retreat. The chilling laughter rose again, a choir of madness. "You belong to us, Sarah, to all of you. You sealed your fate long before reaching this door." A hot breath rushed down her neck, and she resisted the panic clawing at her chest. She had to protect her children. "Follow me," she yelled and spun back to the wall of horrific light. An idea sparked in her mind. If it thrived on fear, they could spin this nightmare to their advantage. "Show us the way out," Sarah demanded, her voice cutting through the noise. "We will not be claimed." The light flickered violently, shadows writhed back in fear, revealing a doorway forming at the end of the hall. Sarah sprinted toward it, dragging Max and Lily behind her. "Run!" she yelled, adrenaline surging through her veins, driving her toward an uncertain hope. As they approached the threshold, the world seemed to collapse behind them, shadows screaming in fury. Would they make it, or were they still within the predator's grasp? The doorway loomed large, ominous yet promising as they plunged through. But the moment they crossed, an icy realization ripped through Sarah. What if the door led somewhere worse? What if the true horror lay waiting just beyond this escape? She plunged onward, heart pounding, each breath a desperate prayer. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find freedom or anchor themselves deeper in dread? They tumbled through the door and landed hard on a cold, stone floor. Sarah gasped, her breath escaping in a gust of fog. The oppressive air felt heavier, thick with despair. A dim glow illuminated their surroundings, but it flickered uncertainly, casting long shadows that twisted across the walls like gnarled fingers yearning to snatch them back. "Where are we?" Max's voice trembled, eyes darting around as if expecting the shadows to spring to life. "I don't know," Sarah whispered, trying to steady her racing heart. The walls were lined with dark, rotting wood, bearing marks of countless hands that had clawed at the surface, desperate for escape. They stood in a corridor that stretched endlessly, each direction equally foreboding. The oppressive feeling of being observed settled over them, prompting Sarah to turn around, half expecting to see the haunting faces from the room they fled. But no one was there, at least not yet. "Mom, it's cold," Lily said, her breath visible in the air as she hugged herself tightly. Sarah could see her daughter's eyes widen with fear, the innocence of childhood seemingly stripped away in an instant. "Let us keep moving," Sarah urged, her voice firm despite the quake in her legs. Fear twisted at her core, but she had to be strong. The tension between them simmered, a palpable reminder that they were all feeling the weight of this nightmare. As they ventured deeper into the corridor, the oppressive silence began to warp. A low, throbbing hum surrounded them, vibrating through the stones beneath their feet. It quickened her pulse, thrumming against the walls of her chest, while the flickering light overhead emitted an unsettling drone, like a distant chant. "Do you hear that?" Max asked, his eyes darting to where the shadows pooled thicker. "Just keep moving. Don't look back," Sarah said, forcing herself to believe they could outpace whatever hunted them. The ghosts of her past loomed in the periphery, but she wouldn't let them win. With every step, the hallway began to morph. Whispers grew sharper, morphing into desperate pleas that clawed at her mind. Each phrase echoed familiar fears, dredging up memories of shame she thought long buried. "Sarah, Sarah," they called, a chorus of voices mixing with the growling hum. "Mom! What are they saying?" Lily cried, panic rising. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. "They're trying to confuse us. We have to keep going." But the truth gnawed at her, she didn't fully understand where they were, or what it wanted from her. Ahead, a door loomed, ancient wood shrouded in shadows, its surface pockmarked as if struck by countless desperate hands. A sense of dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. She instinctively halted, bracing her children at her sides. "Do we have to go in there?" Max's voice faltered, fear like ice in his veins. "Yes," she murmured, uncertainty crashing over her like a wave. But the corridor was alive now, buzzing with the anticipation of their next choice. Without another word, she pushed the door, the creaking echoing like an ominous warning. Inside, the room was dark, save for a single spotlight shimmering over an empty pedestal in the center. But it was the walls that made her blood run cold, covered in portraits, faces writhing in anguish, and eyes that seemed to follow their every move. "Welcome, Sarah," a voice hissed from the shadows, sending chills down her spine. Before she could respond, the air shifted, swirling around them like a vortex of dread. "You've entered our domain now. Do you seek the truth?" As the words hung in the air, a choking darkness tightened its grip, the shadows swirling faster, promising madness if they lingered for too long. Desperation clutched at her throat. "No!" she shouted, rage burning through her fear. "We are not afraid of you." And in that moment, the laughter erupted again, dissonant and mocking, echoing through the chamber. "But you should be, Sarah. You can only hide the truth for so long." As the light wavered, Sarah felt it stealing their resolve. Would this moment hold the key to escape, or would it plunge them deeper into the horrors waiting just beyond the veil? With nowhere left to go, they stood at the precipice of something unspeakable. What truth awaited them in the shadows, and at what cost would they reveal it? The shadows coiled like a living thing, whispering secrets soaked in melancholy. Sarah felt heavy, as though the darkness bore down upon her chest, clinging to the remnants of hope like a dead weight. Every heartbeat echoed ominously, fortified by the threatening presence lingering just outside the halo of their dim light. "Please don't," Max whimpered, eyes wide, searching for reassurance. Sarah crouched low, bringing her trembling children close. "Stay together. We'll face this," she murmured, her voice steady, though fear gnawed at her resolve. The voice in the shadows hissed again, slicing through the air, twisting the very fabric of her thoughts. "You can't escape the truth, Sarah. You've gathered your past now, it's time to acknowledge all you've lost." She braced herself, the entries from her life unspooling in vivid detail, the arguments, the divorce, the faces of those hurt in between. Pain twisted with the nostalgia, threatening to drown her in a swirl of regret. "Enough!" she shouted, digging her nails into her palms, flames of defiance rising within her. "You don't control me. We choose our path." With every declaration, the shadows receded slightly, as if stung. The portraits on the walls began to warp and shift, their twisted faces revealing glimpses of her life, the love she once cherished, the friends lost to time, and sinister secrets of Maplewood hidden behind those perfect smiles. "Do you want to save them?" The shadows crooned, their voices merging into a chorus of temptation. Max's hand squeezed hers tighter. "I don't want them. I want you." Her heart clenched. How could she have ever questioned her love with the monster lurking just beyond her armor? "You'll never take my children," she vowed, her voice fierce and unyielding. "We're stronger together." The ground trembled beneath her, deep rumbling like grief unleashed. The shadows pulsed, and in that moment, Sarah saw at the doorway to freedom ahead, bathed in a soft silver light, flickering like a beacon through the darkness. "Come on!" she yelled, bolting toward it, tugging Max and Lily by the hand. The shadows hissed, grasping at her ankles, trying to pull her back with insidious tendrils. "You can't outrun us." They reached for her, but she pushed forward, fueled by the force of their bond. "Stay close," she shouted as they ran, panic fueling her steps. Just as they neared the threshold, the darkness roared, a tempest raging behind them. The reality of her past bore down like storm clouds, taunting her reminders of sorrow and doubt like cruel echoes. Face us. 1,000 voices cried, merging into a cacophony, but Sarah's resolve hardened. No. She screamed back, her voice a laser cut of determination. I will not be defined by my fears. I will not carry this anymore. With that, she thrust her body forward, propelled by sheer will. She felt the weight of the shadows attempt to cling, but her heart burned like a torch piercing through the veil. The light shimmered brighter, solidifying into a breathtaking spectacle, enveloping her and her children as they surged forward. Then, in a flash, they burst through the portal, a rush of wind, a blinding light, and the familiar warmth of the mundane world wrapped around them like a hug. Sarah gasped, collapsing onto the grass outside her home, breathing in the scent of earth and freedom. Mommy! Max cried, his voice no longer trembling. We did it! Lily laughed, twirling around, petals fluttering around them in soft sunlight. Though the terrifying shadows faded, a few clung at the corners of her vision, a reminder of the battles fought. Yet they shrank, no longer the cruel entity that had once held her hostage. Sarah hugged her children tightly, relief washing over her like a balm, erasing remnants of dread. We fought through it together, she said, a flicker of joy gleaming in her eyes. And we won. Sarah glanced back at the shadows slinking away, how they no longer had control over their memories. The house, once a source of dread, now emanated a gentle warmth, inviting them to create new memories and build a future unburdened by the past. Starting over, she whispered, smiling at the innocence restored in her children. Together. A soft breeze rustled the trees, the sun casting a warm glow over Maplewood, transforming it from a harbinger of horror to a haven of hope. Sarah knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but with Max and Lily by her side, they'd navigate it together, step by brave step. And finally, as her family gazed ahead forward into the promise of brighter days, a surge of joy filled her heart. They had faced the darkness and had emerged victorious, their bond unbreakable, forged in the fiery depths of fear. This was their moment, a chance to truly live. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a sense of peace enveloped the night. There was no escaping the past, but they had carved out a new beginning, radiant with possibility. Now, it was time to heal. If you love this story and want to hear more spine-chilling tales, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't wait even one more second to hit that bell and turn on all notifications so you never miss what's next. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. I want to hear all your thoughts. And, share this video with at least 5 friends who need a good scare and a dose of courage. Spread the word and be a part of our growing family. You won't regret it.